managed to speak to a number of youth just to hear what they think about the current political situation. So they were also saying that no, they also feel that he has to continue from where he left. He started 30 years ago because of what he has done. He has afforded them opportunities like going to learn at universities, and then also sometimes they send them for scholarships. So no, they are happy about his leadership overall from the youth that I've spoken with so far. So we are here to see. The polls are closing at 3 p.m. this afternoon. And then from there, immediately after the polls closed, they will now start counting. And then, by maybe in the evening around 8 o'clock, we'll hear more about who is leading in terms of the number of votes that has been counted, Sakina.
Michael, thanks so much for that update. Channel Africa correspondent Michael Mbewe speaking to us from Kigali in Rwanda. In fact, capturing live there the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, casting his ballot a short while ago. Well, that's all we have time for. Thanks so much, everybody, for listening in, for participating through writing and sending those voice notes, and to the production team. Here's Mudupi Makhalimele with your latest news at 1.
Thank you very much, Sakina. The top story is at 1 o'clock. Former VBS CFO out on parole, and the Western Cape declared a disaster area. A very good afternoon. Correctional Services has confirmed that former VBS bank CFO Philip Trutter has been released on parole. He was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment with 3 years suspended after pleading guilty to charges of fraud, corruption, money laundering and racketeering at VBS Bank. Trutter was the first VBS official to be convicted for the bank's collapse. The second is the bank's former chair, Tsifiwa Matodzi, who was sentenced to 15 years behind bars. Correctional Services spokesperson Singabakho Nxumalo says that Trutter was released in April.
Was sentenced to 10 years, where in 3 years was suspended for a period of 5 years, meaning that he had to serve a term of 7 years. Having served the minimum required time, he was then taken for a parole consideration process wherein he was placed out on the 12th of April 2024 by the Correctional Supervision and Parole Board.
Western Cape Premier Ellen Wendy says cost estimates are being calculated after the province was declared a disaster area following extreme weather conditions in many parts last week. The declaration was made following a meeting between Wendy and the Kokta Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa in Cape Town this morning. Wendy has commended Hlabisa for treating the issue with urgency.
I really want to thank the Minister for the speed in which we've got this declaration, and so that is just really going to help us with financing the costs of fixing the problem, making sure that we are responding as quickly as possible. We've got to really start investing far more resources into mitigation mechanisms, into redesign, into rebuild.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says the government is preparing itself for the economic risks of transitioning to green energy. He says this is being done through projects such as Operation Vulindlela. The initiative is aimed at fast-tracking the delivery of structural economic reforms to unblock economic growth. Ramaphosa says in response to global climate change, carbon tax is a vital component of mitigating the economic risks.
Investments in green infrastructure, renewable energy, and climate adaptation measures can be costly, and they can require, and they do require rather, careful financial planning and prioritization. That is why we have prioritized inclusive growth. We are hard at work implementing the urgent reforms that are needed to lift economic growth, that is, and to pursue a fiscal strategy that protects the sustainability of our public finances.
Members of the Metal Workers Union NUMSA at Menzies Aviation are on a nationwide strike. The company's workers across airports in South Africa say that management has refused to permanently employ temporary workers. NUMSA's Mziyanda Twani says they're determined to get the members what they deserve.
When they are on sick leave, they are not paid because they are paid on an hourly basis, or they are paid the hours that they would have been in work, excluding those that they are on sick leave. So it affects them economically. Their take-home pay gets affected. The strike is going to continue perpetually until management gives in to what workers are demanding. So it's a strike continuing until management gives in to what workers are fairly asking for.
And police in Kenya say they've arrested a serial killer following the recent discovery of at least 9 mutilated bodies at a rubbish dump in Nairobi. Police say the 33-year-old Jomaisi Kalisia has confessed to killing 42 women, including his own wife, since 2022. The BBC's Ian Wafula has more.
Kenya's Director of Criminal Investigation said that police found crucial evidence at the suspect's home, including 10 phones, a machete, identity cards, and women's clothing. They also discovered 9 sacks similar to those that were recently found full of body parts at a nearby rubbish dump. The police said the 33-year-old suspect, Collins Jomaisi Kalisia, lived close to the site. Since Friday, police have cordoned off the dump site where the 9 female bodies were found in various stages of decomposition. Kenya's police watchdog said it was investigating whether there was any possible police involvement in the crimes, noting that the dump site was just 100 meters from a police station.
The top story at 1 o'clock, Correctional Services has confirmed that former VBS Bank CFO Philip Trota has been released on parole. The Full Circle is up next. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhaleme.
If you love premium documentaries, then we know you love Thursday nights on S3. Broadcaster Alice Levine asks if there's anything such as normal when it comes to sex and sexuality in the 2020s. She meets sexual adventurers up and down Britain, those pushing the boundaries of sex, intimacy, and relationships. Tune into Sex Actually, Thursdays at 9 p.m. Channel your inner curiosity with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up. S3.
The European outfit want to interrogate African resilience, but Tanzanian champions are highly spirited to rise. German Bundesliga club FC Augsburg battles it out with Yanga SC from Tanzania. This is the Mpumalanga Premiers International Cup 2024. Do not miss out on the mouth-watering clash between FC Augsburg and Young Africans on Saturday, 20 July at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. #We love it here. Tickets are available at CompuTicket. Proudly brought to you by the TS Galaxy Foundation and SABC Sport.
For the love of the game. The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Like a warrior that fights and wins the battle, I know the taste of victory.
It is Aretha Franklin coming through with George Michael with I Knew You Were Waiting. That is the song. That's how we kick off the show this afternoon and this glorious Monday. I don't know if you've ever seen the docuseries Amazing Grace, Aretha Franklin's Amazing Grace. And it's an incredible documentary that presents Aretha Franklin with a choir at the new Bethel Baptist Church in Watts, Los Angeles. And it was shot around in real time around 1972, 1973. And if memory serves correct, I think it came on the back of her recording what was at the time the most successful gospel album. And I wonder if it still has held to that record. I haven't double checked, but it would be interesting to know if Amazing Grace by Aretha Franklin still holds as the most successful gospel album of all time, or perhaps with the birth of new gospel artists who are inspired in one way or another by the amazing vocalist herself, have gone on to supersede that achievement. I don't know. I hope you had a great weekend. I hope you managed to get some rest over the course of this weekend and you were able to recalibrate and recharge and you're ready for the week ahead. It is a beautiful Monday. And of course, you know, on a Monday, we tend to have more career-focused conversations. And today we're going to be joined by Sibusiso Nkosi, who is one of our resident guests on the show. He's a career coach. And we're going to be talking around imposter syndrome, how to manage imposter syndrome at work and get your confidence back. We also are going to be hearing more about this 100 million that's been set aside to make education accessible. We'll find out more about that and what that all entails. We're also focusing on the Bold Woman Network with the co-founder of the Bold Woman Network. Lutando is going to be joining us in conversation. That's in this hour of the show. On the other side of 2 o'clock, how about we change some perceptions around artisan careers? I can't tell you how often we say to people, you should look at careers like plumbing, for instance. Just the other day, this conversation was sparked on social media to say, what career would you advise young people to get into that has a low barrier to entry rate, where young people can be uber successful, go on to launch their own entrepreneurship journeys and possibly employ other young people within community. And myself and Sizwe Dlomo almost simultaneously responded plumbing. And you'd be surprised how many people were shocked to say plumbing. But we'll talk about that a little bit more on the other side of 2 o'clock. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. If you'd like to send through a WhatsApp voice note, you're more than welcome to do so. Or 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on. Let's take a quick break.
Arts, culture, and robust conversations with Bridget Masinga.
Getting into our first conversation with Sibusiso Nkosi, who is a resident voice on the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, and we're talking around managing imposter syndrome at work and getting your confidence back. No doubt, most of us have experienced that nagging feeling of doubt that you're just not as capable as others think you are, or that you find yourself fearful to fail. You never put your hand up and never sort of volunteer yourself to take up the challenge and the task. And you hear people, saying, put that imposter syndrome aside. What's up with you and this imposter syndrome? So we thought we'd catch up with Sibusiso and unpack this a little bit more. How are you doing on this fine Monday?
I'm good, Bridget. You know me, no complaints. Always happy to talk, always happy to share information. It's weird I'm not in studio today, but let's do it.
It is very weird because you're always here, but nonetheless, we appreciate you. Let's talk about imposter syndrome, right? It's a term that we've come to use more frequently in sort of modern day conversation, but perhaps it's something that's still not widely understood by a lot of people to say, in essence, what do we mean when we talk about what is imposter syndrome?
Yeah, and I think, Bridget, the easiest way to explain it is it's basically doubting your professional capabilities, right? Because you feel like you haven't tested it enough. And there's a lot of reasons why that happens. So in most cases, we actually tend to focus more on the feedback and the reactions instead of our delivery on the scope of work, right? So the simplest way to put it is that you are doubting your professional delivery. You are doubting if you've answered everything on the scope of work that you have been given. And instead, what you focus on is that when you send through the scope of work, you missed one attachment and somebody was like, oh, I'm so disappointed that you missed one attachment. And you sort of like, you become fixated on that somebody became disappointed instead of focusing on the fact that they did not actually complain about the scope of work and how you delivered. They just complained about one small thing, but that reaction actually gets to you and you start feeling like you are not capable.
Where does this stem from, Sbusi? So where does this sense of, doubting one's professional ability or delivery, does it have a place that it's rooted in?
Very complicated, Bridget, very complicated. So I don't want to overstep now, and become a psychologist, because that's what I always tell life coaches to do. Be careful not to overstep, because there are people that went to school so that they can give a clinical diagnosis. But there could be a magnitude of factors, right? So the past could also affect you. So let's speak about from a professional setting. You started your first job. And your first job, obviously, there's a lot of things that you do not know. You're sort of like building a plane, as it flies. And you'll find that most of the feedback that you received in your first job was very harsh. There was a lot of things that were missing. And you don't want to be in that position again where you're sitting in a boardroom and all you're getting is negative things. And that's sort of like normal in your first job. You're not expected to get it 100% right. But a lot of people, they just get so caught up in that trauma of that negative feedback that even as they grow in their professional careers, they try by all means to avoid that horrible situation where the directors were literally just embarrassing me in the kitchen, telling me about how I did not deliver and so forth. So that fear of avoiding, or that ambition of avoiding this whole entire situation again, it makes you sort of become a perfectionist when you're doing your work. And in your head, it will never be good enough, because that first manager that really embarrassed you and shouted at you, they're still sitting in your head. You'll find that a lot of people that had made mistakes in their first jobs and they had good bosses, they're still able to put themselves out there. But some people have been through traumatic experiences, and I think a lot of us have seen it in an office where the approach and the feedback was so traumatic that it affects you for the rest of your professional life.
And I think what you're saying here, Sbu, and I appreciate you putting the disclaimer about not wanting to, straddle on sort of the territory of psychology. But I think what you're talking about here also speaks to a conversation we had last week, probably Monday, with Dr. Linda Meyer, who is a career expert herself. And she spoke around, and we were talking about sort of different management styles, right? And how those affect the employer-employee relationship. And she spoke about avoidant bosses. Bosses that are not supportive, they're not nurturing, they're not present, they're not there as part of your support mentoring system. And how that creates an emotional deficit and a trust deficit. And she spoke about the other categories. So it was 3 categories of bosses. 2 out of 3 were unhealthy. And she spoke about the hovering bosses, the ones, the managers that create the sense of anxiety, the sense of uncertainty and unease, because they're forever hovering, they're forever double checking and triple checking everything that you do, and they don't let you have a sense of independence or to be able to build the trust in your own capacity. And I think what you just touched on when we speak about where imposter syndrome could possibly stem from in the professional sense, or some of the factors that it could sort of help it fester, also speak to that conversation about the 2 types of leadership that you experience.
100%. Because, Bridget, when you are dealing with people that are getting into the workplace for the first time, already it's overwhelming to be in corporate. It's overwhelming to not be a graduate anymore. There's the pressure of making it and becoming successful because I have to take care of the whole entire family. So the kind of support that you need when you get into your first job, whether it's an internship and so forth, the psychology needs to be very different, right? You're not dealing with somebody who's experienced, who's been in a company for 6-7 years, and you cannot treat everyone as if they are not putting their best foot forward. Putting your best foot forward in your first job looks very different from somebody who's been there for a long time. If you don't give people the right support, you will fall into what I call professional trauma, which is what a whole lot of people have experienced. So it might not affect you at home, it might not affect you in your social circles, but every time you have to open up your computer and then you have to type an email, now the anxiety kicks in, because the last time I sent the wrong email, it became, instead of like proper feedback of saying, hey, Bridget, maybe try using these words, maybe try using that, I was actually shouted at in front of everybody. So now the emails make you freeze. Whenever you see something on the inbox that needs a response, it actually makes you freeze. And this could be something that happened 10 years ago in your first job, but it carries on with you. So those kinds of managers, I feel like, they really destroy people professionally. You see somebody who's been in, and I'm not making fun of them, like literally you see people that have been in the same administration position for 20 years. And you can see potential as a career coach when you're sitting with them, but they are sort of like caught in this trap and they are frozen, because why should I put myself in a position that's going to require me to apply more, which means get more in trouble, which means get more shouted at? I'd rather avoid it completely and just sit where I am. And they are not happy, but it's like there's nothing that I can do. I've got professional trauma.
Yeah. And the thing also that I'm realizing, Sbu, and I don't know if my assessment is correct, but I almost feel as though it's not even, imposter syndrome is not somebody that, well, it's not something that affects those sort of on the lower chain of employment, right? It can go all the way up, even at the executive level.
Of course, you have executives that even today are doubting themselves. And if you check it, the root cause of it is almost similar. So maybe in their first job, they did well, they were supported, and then they moved into a supervisory position, did well, moved into a management position, and that's where they ran into that kind of executive who gives sort of like criticism and so forth. So now they move on to different organizations where they get recognized, but as they move up and get into those executive positions, now all of that trauma comes back. So it happens at any level, from intern to executive to board member and so forth, which is very unfortunate.
Absolutely. Does it also speak to a sense maybe of what you perceive you deserve and what you don't deserve?
So there's two sides of it, right? So there's imposter syndrome that comes because of the past trauma. So basically it means you are at a place where you don't even know how to assess how you executed on the scope of work. Because the scope of work is actually very clear. If they say to you, Bridget, please write down a strategy for the department, right? The scope of work is actually there. So when you are executing on the scope of work, your fear, it's actually not even the scope of work itself. It's what the reaction is going to be on the scope of work. And that's where people sort of like get lost now, right? Like, I doubt my skills, but it's actually not your skills that you doubt. You are scared of the reaction that's going to happen. So that's number one. Number two, the imposter syndrome happens where there's issues of arrogance, if I can put it like that, right? So you're thinking, this is what I deserve, this is what should be happening, and the fact that I'm not getting it means I am not good enough. So you sort of like overestimate yourself. Sometimes I think we have the wrong assessment of who we are. It's good to be the guy that you think you are, or the girl that you need to, you think you are, but you also need to make a proper assessment. So you got somebody who's saying, I'm looking at all of these managers. I think I'm 100% at the same level as them, but I'm still reporting to them, right? So that means there's something wrong with me. Whereas you haven't done a fair assessment of saying that as much as you have the qualifications, maybe you're too hot-headed in the office, and that's why you haven't been moved up. So it can happen from both those instances.
I see. All right. So a sense of overestimating yourself, which stems from some kinds of self-arrogance, and then a sense of doubting yourself, which essentially I'm also hearing stems from a place of fear, right? Because the only reason why feedback good or bad, would affect you in such a manner is because there is that sense of maybe feeling the fear of and the anxiety that comes with all of that. But also, weirdly enough, the converse is embedded in that fear is still a sense of not deserving, because you're almost anticipating that someone's going to say to you, it's not good enough.
Exactly. So if you've disappointed a person more than once, right? And their reaction, this is where the reaction comes in, and that's why you feel like you're not deserving. If I disappoint you 3 times, right? So feedback in corporate is very risk focused, right? So I will not send you an email and say, Bridget, your strategy is actually brilliant, right? However, I found 2 or 3 typos. When I'm giving you feedback, my first reaction is going to be, there's typos in the document. So you do not get that, but your strategy is actually fantastic. So now, because you get fixated on that and then you disappointed somebody 3 times, when somebody says to you in a new company, Bridget, we want you and we want you to become a manager of this department, you're like, hold on, you guys are playing me. Because there's no way, after I've disappointed the same person 3 times with the same issue, you guys would now bring me in and make me a manager. So probably you want to make me a token. It's probably for your BE points and so forth, right? I do not deserve that because I've been disappointing people. And the reason why you feel like people were disappointed is because of the kind of feedback that you get in corporate. Always it will focus on the issues because we're trying to mitigate the risk. And I think that's something that is wrong with corporate. You do not get a kudos on the strategy. It's brilliant. I like paragraph 2 and 4, and I think it speaks to our client needs. However, do you mind changing the conclusion? Instead, you're going to get an email that says, oh my gosh, that conclusion is so weak. I feel like you could have applied yourself more. And that on its own is going to make you feel like, okay, then clearly I must be horrible. But you find that the conclusion says on page number 9, but page 1 to 8, you actually killed it. So that's where the self-assessment, which is something that you need to do to deal with imposter syndrome, actually comes in.
In about not even a minute, because I got to get into the news headlines and wrap up our conversation. But in about 40 seconds, Sbu, just some top tips as to how we deal with this then.
Always assess your scope of work. Start there, right? Look at your scope of work. Have I delivered on it? Have I put all of the requirements? So that when you get the feedback, you focus on, is the negative feedback coming from the technical aspects or is it coming from just the aesthetics of whatever I'm submitting? That is your first starting point.
All right. Spusis Nkosi, I appreciate the time. And Spusis, of course, is a career coach helping us understand imposter syndrome. So it'd be a good thing, maybe if what we're talking about, you feel resonated with you, maybe get in contact with someone like a career coach just to help you weave your way through these. And if it needs more than just a career coach, because there is very much a psychological aspect that is attached to imposter syndrome. And sometimes it has very little even to do with your actual bosses, no matter how toxic they are. And it's got everything to do with the coding in your personal life and your upbringing. And that might require a psychologist to help you work through that. It's just gone 1:30. Time to catch up with Modupi Mkhalamelo with the headline news.
Thank you very much, Sister Bridge, and a very good afternoon. In your headlines this hour, Correctional Services has confirmed that former VBS Bank CFO Philip Trutter has been released on parole. Rand Water's extensive maintenance project to upgrade Gauteng's water infrastructure is entering its final phase, and US President Joe Biden says there's no place in America for the kind of violence that occurred when his predecessor Donald Trump was targeted in an assassination attempt while campaigning. Details of these and other stories coming up 2 o'clock.
SAFM leading the conversation.
As we continue with conversations this afternoon, we're joined now by Senior Associate Director for Financial Aid at the University of Pretoria, Gugu Ihanachu. And the University of Pretoria has successfully rallied students, alumni, donors and friends of the university behind their mission to raise 100 million rand to make education accessible for students within the missing middle with the campaign hashtag Giving Matters. How are you doing this afternoon, Gugu?
I'm fine, Bridget, and your listeners, and how are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for taking the time. This is a campaign, the university's hashtag Giving Matters campaign was launched back in 2022. And I think, if memory serves correct, I think we had a conversation around it at the launch. But refresh our minds and why it was so important for the university to quite tangibly step in for their own student body.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Bridget. Yes, and we did have the conversation at the launch. It was centered around mostly trying to get people to have this sense of giving or create a culture of giving in our institution, where we are saying we will first look out for one of our own before we go out there and we say we're going to be asking other people to come in and assist. So the idea came around just having this sense of community and everyone coming together and saying we recognize that every registered student at the university is a part of the UP family, and it's going to start with us.
Absolutely. And very important, that sentiment, right? So when you see universities like UP, when you see the likes of UCT, and I think WITS as well has a similar thing, it sends the right message to the community of the university that the university cares. You're just not a student number, but you are an investment.
Exactly. So it's a matter of we are running this race together because we are recognizing as the university that we will not exist without the students that are walking around in our corridors and that enroll and choose UP on a yearly basis to say we are going to choose us, they're going to choose us as their partner in fulfilling their dreams of becoming doctors, lawyers, whatever their dreams are, but we are in it together.
Now, you've put out a call and you've rallied, past and present alumni, donors, friends of the university to come behind and mission behind hashtag Giving Matters with the aim of raising 100 million over 3 years. Let's get a recap as to how close or how far we are from that goal.
As the things stand right now, we are sitting at 82.1 million raised over the past 2 years. So as you know, that is a campaign that was designed to last over 3 years and hopefully beyond. So actually the 22nd of July is the day for that 100 million target.
22nd of July this year?
Yes, this year.
All right. I mean, listen, you've done considerably well with 82 million already raised, and you've just got less than 2 weeks to go to raise the other 18 million. But 82 million is no small feat, considering also where the country is financially and where your potential donors are financially.
Exactly. And I would say that if not for our donors past, donors present, and potential donors as well, we are recognizing as well the people that actually donate their time as well. Some might not have the financial means to donate themselves, but looking at their networks, they are able to send out the message for us and put in that good word for us to say this is a really worthy cause to give into. So it's kudos to all of them coming together and just rallying behind this campaign. Without them, we wouldn't be where we are.
Absolutely. And hopefully by the time D-Day arrives exactly a week from now, you would have at least had a few more millions in the bank to close that gap to 100 million. Let's talk about along this journey. Over the last 2 years, have there been some challenges in convincing folks or maybe some hurdles along the way in sort of reaching the goal? And what have those been? And how do we help in whatever way that we can help to circumvent that? Because we'd like to see this carrying on for the next 3 years and the next 3 years after that.
Oh, yes. everybody would like to see it go beyond. It has been embedded in our culture for the past 2 years now that everyone looks forward to that very Giving Day activation on the first day of the second semester. So the challenges that we have been experiencing, as you know, the economic climate that we are currently operating in, so it's been very tough asking people to dig really deep into their pockets because, as you know, we are asking people that are already struggling to make means, like make ends meet or try to put together whatever they have. And as well, trying to also convince those that have the means to say this is a worthy cause. So what we would normally do is that last year we have this wonderful campaign called UP Voices, where we were showing the impact that the funds that we have received thus far on how much of a difference they have made in the students' lives. And going forward, we've had a lot of success stories where students were about to drop out, where students had already dropped out, and we call them back from home and we say, please come back and just finish your 4 modules and then you can have your degree. And their whole lives are just changed. I think from everyone, it's just sharing this good message to say, let us give hope to the hopeless people, the people that have lost hope about funding their studies because of one circumstances or the other. Others are dropped from our national funder. Others are finding it very difficult to secure external funding. Others, it's many circumstances. Because if I can start telling the stories, we would be here for years, actually.
Yeah, right.
But it's just a matter of having that platform to say, there are good stories. You are making an impact. It might look very small to you, but it's big.
I mean, I'm not going to ask you, or maybe I should. I don't know, depending on how well is your memory, to say from the top of your head, and maybe you can think about it over the minutes, because sometimes people need to be motivated by those good stories, You hear that story of that student who was close to qualifying as an engineer or a doctor, and then circumstances happened in their family that disrupted their trajectory, and they were just at the finish line, and had it not been for this intervention of #Giving Matters, it would have been all of those years of study down the drain and a dream deferred, and sometimes people just need to hear that so they can go, oh man, Gugu told me that story about that girl or that boy, and I'm going to help them cross the finish line.
Oh yes, the one that comes to top of mind was a student who was doing his LLB. So he started off with the BA law and then was supposed to move on and do his LLB. At that year was the year that NSFAS stopped funding LLB as a second qualification. So he was faced with dropping out because, as you know, you can't serve your articles without the LLB and you can't become an admitted attorney without the LLB. He was able to get funding for year 1, and then year 2, he was able to get partial funding. But because it was partial funding, he couldn't register for all his modules. And then all of a sudden came year 3, where he was about to complete, and he just had 5 modules left. He came in January, and we just could not assist at that time because funding was not there. We didn't have. And then we had the giving campaign, and then funds were raised. And then for second semester, I was the first one that called him after the money came into the cost center, and I was like, yay, Wena, you must wake up and come to university. I finally found you funding. You can come and complete your 4 modules. He was so excited. He stayed in Mamelodi, but he was in my office within an hour.
Aww.
And I was like, it's like he was speeding on the road, but he was just too excited. And then in that December, I got an SMS from him to say, thank you very much, Sis Gugu. I finally completed my LLB and I'm starting my articles. And that just made it all worth it.
You see, really, honestly, and that's just it's a case of you literally are seeing the finish line, and life is just throwing curves at you, and you just need to be pushed over the edge. I mean, it's incredible stories, Gugu. You guys on the campus, and of course, the Friends of Hashtag Giving Matters have done such an incredible job. I know that D-Day for 2024 is the 21st of July to help the University of Pretoria cross that 100 million mark. And this is a campaign that they embarked on from 2022 and raised 82 million thus far, going towards bridging the gap for the missing middle students, as you hear the stories there. And anything goes. They're saying even a donation as little as 10 Rand, a recurring deposit that just goes off every single month from your bank account and goes into theirs, will just make all the difference. On closing, where do people go if they want to get more information, Gugu, especially if they want to get that pertinent information about the bank accounts and setting up those debits?
Oh, thank you very much for that. We have our website up and running. It's called, the address is givingday.up.ac.za. So it's givingday.up.ac.za. There they can make a once-off donation, or they can make a recurring donation that occurs monthly, and they will give us an end date or indefinitely, whichever suits them. And we give them an opportunity to those students that will be receiving that funding to say, the finish line is yours, make today matters, whatever is in their hearts, just to urge them on to say, it's not the end of the road. They are given that platform as well.
Absolutely. So that is givingday.up.co.za.
.ac.za.
Oh, .ac.za. Okay, there we go. So givingday.up.ac.za. That is where you can go to get all the information for you if you want to step in and help the University of Pretoria with this really great initiative, hashtag Giving Matters, with the aim of raising 100 million over 3 years, and they began in 2023, and they'd like to see this program extend indefinitely into the future. And listen, 82 million is no small number, and so we'll take it. But if we can get them to 85 million by the 21st of July, which is next week, that's an even better number. And then we can start the clock all over again and count in the next 100 million over the next 3 years. That was Gugu Ahenasho, there we go. Ahenasho, Senior Associate Director for Financial Aid at the University of Pretoria. We were debating amongst ourselves. We forgot to ask her if her surname stems from Portugal or what is the roots of it. Let's take a quick pause and then we come back on the other side of this and we get into Bold Women's Network.
Shopping sprees, catching flights while others catch feelings, shaking that thing while sipping on some bubbles on a yacht in Dubai. Some call it living soft. You know, ndofo. Tune into Sugar Baby Dating, a highly revealing documentary that lifts the lid of the sugar baby dating phenomenon and talks to girls who have a string of rich older men funding their lifestyles and the women that feel damaged by the whole experience. This Thursday at 10 p.m. Is it just a little frivolous fun, or is there a sinister side to sugar baby dating? Channel your inner curiosity with Sugar Baby Dating, 11 July at 10 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Chomi, I just hope I get auto-assess this year so I can just accept.
You're so lazy. Remember, not everyone gets the auto-assessment notice.
I know, but I'm ready. I've got my e-filing password sorted, I've updated my details, and my IRP5 is ready.
Make tax matters priority by updating your personal and banking details and expect your auto-assessment notice from 1 to 14 July. If you disagree with your auto-assessment, file your return via e-filing. If you don't receive a notice, visit e-filing to submit your tax return from 15 July 2024. Visit sars.gov.za for more information. Your tax matters. SARS, at your service.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Catching up now with Luthando Mashlopa, who's the co-founder of Bold Women Network. And Bold Women Network is a leader in promoting gender equality and empowerment. And of course, they're announcing the launch of the Bold Women in Sport events in collaboration with the Holy Rosary School. How are you doing this afternoon, Luthando?
I'm very well, thanks, and dear Bridget. How are you?
I am awesome. Share with us the inspiration behind starting the Bold Woman Network.
Oh, thank you so much. So the inspiration behind starting Bold Woman Network with Lerato Kariaka and myself was that we felt that we had no place. We go to different events, different organizations, form part of different societies, but people and organizations weren't speaking, I suppose, our language, weren't resonating with them. And we weren't the only ones who felt like this. But I suppose we're then brave enough to begin our own thing and, our own organization where we invited everyone across industries to the table and to, essentially just make that circle bigger and to take everyone along with us.
And you are now launching the Bold Woman in Sports event. Tell us more about the focus of this particular one.
So we had this event this past Saturday at the Rosary School, and it was absolutely fantastic. The focus for this event was primarily to support the sports, to shine light on what has been done, on the greatness, but also to just speak on the issues that are still there, particularly in grassroots level sports, with young women in sports, at high school level, varsity, and within now, the professional league. It was also to highlight issues of gender parity, and pay, and just slight inequalities, sometimes male athletes get better brand opportunities and branding opportunities than females. And, why is that? So we're just trying to, just shine light and also give young women opportunities for them to learn more about the sports industry that they're wanting to go in. So we actually had brought girls from Lofense High in Orlando, and we work with them sometimes. And on this project, there came about 40 of them to the school, and it was just such an inspirational day for all of us. The speakers were absolutely amazing, and the students were really, really inspired, and just the audience at large.
And I think, one of the important things about movements like this, and I don't know if you would agree with me, is they need to be more than just gatherings for the sake of talk shopping, right? There needs to be real, tangible action that comes after we all convene together, whether it's a sense of then reaching out into various spaces and holding certain people accountable. But there needs to be things that we come back when we come back a year later, and we can say that this is what has happened since the conversation of the previous year. Are you sort of building the organization to have that kind of more sort of active action in the spaces that it sits and around the conversations that it holds?
Yes, definitely, we are. We are building an organization like that. When we began last year, we started with Bold Women in Marketing. Lerato is a marketer, I'm a PR professional. And it was important that we started with our own professions. And from then, we built on other things. And then we had our Women in Health initiative. And from there as well, we have built other small initiatives that have formed part of that. And even Bold Women in Tech. There are small initiatives that also have come out of that, because we don't like just starting things and then nothing happens.
Yeah.
We want to start something, and it doesn't matter how small the next one is, but we must follow through. There has to be a follow through, whether it's us having a variety of other conversations on the side and actual projects that are tangible, or people actually benefiting and connecting from these events, and then having tangible results to show as a result of what had happened at Bold Women Network.
Absolutely.
And we're so fortunate that we have a lot of that. The people, our community is growing, and we interact in such a way where we come back to each other and say, guys, from this event, ABCD has happened. This collaboration has occurred. From this project that you guys did, we did this. From that meeting that we had, we met these people, and this has then come together because of the initiative that you guys had.
Yeah. Lutando Mashlopa, it was a pleasure meeting you. And Lutando is the co-founder of Bold Woman Network. It's just gotten 10 to 2 o'clock. It's time for us to get into Kids Corner, which will run us to the top of the hour with Madupi Makhalamela coming through with your 2 o'clock news. And then you and I will see each other on the other side of 2. And we're changing perceptions around artisan careers.
Feel good breakfast show.
Do you have fresh musical talent lighting up your timeline or making waves in your community?
Well, we want to see them shine, so send their details to our WhatsApp line on 063-408-8863 and they could perform live on Expresso.
Discover the hottest new artists and be part of the excitement.
Catch Expresso weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. only on S3 and be part of the magic.
If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation.
The National Pulse.
There's been widespread confirmations from other places, not from the DA officially, that in fact the DA accept the fact that now that they will not be part of the province of Gauteng's executive.
The ANC basically said to the DA, well, we're going to allocate you 3 portfolios out of 10, even though the difference of seats between the ANC and the DA is 6, or the percentage is about 7% only. And the ANC would take 7 seats, either for itself or for other unnamed parties. So the DA, it's a bit like Ashraf selling your house without agreeing on the purchase price. This would be the equivalent, in the sense that the DA had no idea who it would be going to business with in this government.
Not only on a former party leader, I could say former ambassador as well.
The National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m. This program is brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
Hi SAFM, my name is Angel from Brackenridge Primary. I am very happy that school has started. The holidays was very boring. I found it easy getting back to school schedule. I don't need more days to rest. I want to be on the move every morning. Seeing my friends at school made me really happy. Getting to spend time with them again. Thank you.
Good day, parents. My name is Kapiamba. My son is Dianabu, and I'm 12 years old. I feel sad after the holidays. I find it hard to get used to my school schedule. I wanted a little more days to rest. I was excited to see my friends. Thank you for listening.
Greetings to my peers and all. I go by the name Praise Ziba from Brixton Primary School. I am doing grade 7 this year. Today I'll be talking about going back to school and refreshing my mind of everything on our schedule based on the things that we used to do. I feel very, very pleased by going back to school because it keeps me more busy and it refreshes our minds. Going back to school is one of the best things, and I find it easy to go back to school and re-memorize my school schedule so that I don't forget what is my future long-term goal. I feel interested enough, and I also really want more days to rest, but there's nothing I can do if I want to achieve my goal. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. My name is Amunga Zumiana. Going back to school after the long holidays, I feel a mix of emotions. I'm excited to see my friends and to learn new things, but I'm also a bit nervous to get back into the routine. It's taking some time to adjust, but I am getting there. I'm glad to have had a break, but I'm also ready to learn and have some fun. I'm most excited about seeing my friends and learning new things. I think it's important to get back into the school schedule so that we don't fall behind and that we can keep up with our work. Thank you for listening. Bye for now. See you next time.
I believe to be an organized person, and some of the things I did over the weekend to prepare myself was polish my school shoes, wash my bag, and prepare my uniform. I feel that we should prepare ourselves for school, but also with the help of our parents or guardians, mainly because it can also help us learn and get used to helping ourselves become more organized and independent when it comes to preparing ourselves for school over the holidays.
My name is Katlana Nyane and I'm 12 years old. Yes, I am an organized person. Things I've done during this weekend is I've washed my bag and packed all my books. I think you should pack your own things instead of your guardians or elders doing it for you. It helps you become more responsible, and it helps you know where you put your own things instead of your parents or your elder siblings putting it in places that you don't want it to be. Or they could offer, and if they offer, it's okay. It's either you can agree or you can do it yourself.
Hello, my name is Patsumachetan. No, I'm actually not organized. I'm the last minute person. Some of the things I did over the weekend to prepare for school was to make sure that my uniform was ironed and my books were packed. No, our parents and elderly siblings should not be the ones to put everything together for us in preparation of going back to school after the holidays. I think we should do it ourselves, because going back to school and making sure that everything is together is our responsibility and not theirs.
Hi friends, and happy Monday! How are you all feeling about being back to school so far? It's understandable if some of you feel like the holidays flew by too quickly. But today let's talk about the importance of adjusting to the normal schedule after the break. Returning to a regular routine after school holidays is important for us as children to maintain academic progress and for our overall well-being. I do understand that it can be tempting to prolong the holiday relaxation mind now that school has resumed, but doing so might result in falling behind in your schoolwork. By quickly readjusting to a structured routine, you'll be able to stay on top of your assignments and retain the knowledge you gained before the break. Taking a proactive approach will also help you avoid the stress of last-minute cramming and better prepare for your upcoming lessons and exams. Having a consistent schedule also helps you improve time management skills. During your recent school holidays, you may have engaged in activities that disrupted your usual study patterns. Re-establishing a routine will assist you in effectively allocating time between schoolwork, extramural activities, and relaxation. This balance is important for developing strong organizational skills, which will be beneficial not only during your time in school, but also in your future professional and personal life. Additionally, sticking to a schedule will aid you in prioritizing tasks, setting goals, and systematically achieving them. Returning to a schedule will also play a role in maintaining good mental and physical health. You may be wondering, how so? Well, things like regular sleep patterns, balanced meals, and scheduled physical activities all contribute to your overall well-being. For instance, irregular sleeping and unhealthy eating habits during holidays may have led to fatigue and decreased concentration. Now that school has started again, establish a regular schedule and ensure that you're getting enough rest, eating nutritious meals, and engaging in regular physical activities. These are all important for staying focused and energized throughout the school day. Sticking to a routine helps develop a sense of responsibility and discipline. It teaches you the value of commitment and the benefits of staying consistent with your responsibilities. This discipline is not only important for academic success, but it also helps build good character that prepares you for future challenges and obstacles. By understanding the importance of routine and sticking to it, you learn to use time wisely, make informed decisions, and develop a strong work ethic. This foundation is important for your overall growth into a responsible and successful adult in the future.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives.
The top stories at 2 o'clock. Former VBS CFO released on parole and Rand Water's maintenance project enters its final phase. A very good afternoon. Correctional Services has confirmed that former VBS Bank CFO Philip Truta has been released on parole. He was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment with 3 years suspended after pleading guilty to charges of fraud, corruption, money laundering and racketeering at VBS Bank. Truta was the first VBS official to be convicted for the bank's collapse. The second is the bank's former chairperson, Tsifiwa Matodzi, who was sentenced to 15 years behind bars. Correctional Services spokesperson Singabakho Nxumalo says that Truta was released in April.
Was sentenced to 10 years, where in 3 years was suspended for a period of 5 years, meaning that he had to serve a term of 7 years. Having served the minimum required time, he was then taken for a parole consideration process wherein he was placed out on the 12th of April 2024 by the Correctional Supervision and Parole Board.
The EFF has rubbished suggestions that it benefited from an arrangement with convicted fraudster and former VBS chair Tsifiwa Matodzi. This after Matodzi implicated EFF leaders Julius Malema and Floyd Shivambu and some ANC leaders of receiving millions of rand in donations from the now collapsed bank. This is contained in Matodzi's affidavit, which was part of his plea deal. EFF former national chairperson Advocate Dalim Mpofu has accused people of embellishing Matodzi's affidavit.
The people who are trying to embellish the affidavit of Matodzi are all guilty of the same thing. Matodzi's affidavit says he went to speak to leaders of the EFF because of the criticism of the what we now call the Zuma loan. That's not a crime. He then says that he offered a donation. That's not a crime as well, by the way. There's no quid pro quo. It's not there in the affidavit. All I'm saying is that don't put words into Matodzi. If you want to interpret it that way, fine, you're free. I'll interpret it the way I interpret it. But do not tell your viewers that it comes from the affidavit, because that's a lie.
Rand Water's extensive maintenance project to upgrade Gauteng's water infrastructure is entering its final phase. The aim of the 37-day project, which began on the 22nd of last month, is to ensure reliable water supply to the province. It'll run until the end of this month. The water utilities Makinosi Maruo says that the project is proceeding well.
We have completed a number of major projects, but some areas are still experiencing low water pressure, and we are advising the residents to please consult their municipalities if there are challenges, because we have an agreement that if people are experiencing low to no water pressure, the municipality will be able to provide with roaming or stationary tankers.
In the Free State, 3 police members arrested for allegedly robbing a man at a filling station in Welkom are expected to appear in the local magistrate's court today. Police say an investigation has revealed that the 2 constables and a sergeant pulled over a vehicle and ordered the driver to step out. The man refused and drove to the nearest filling station, and the officers followed him. Police say the officers then allegedly grabbed the victim's cell phone and sped off. The suspects were traced to Gauteng, where they were arrested. And U.S. President Joe Biden says there's no place in America for the kind of violence that occurred when his predecessor, Donald Trump, was targeted in an assassination attempt while campaigning. Biden says he has spoken briefly with Trump and has expressed gratitude that he's doing well. The FBI will lead the investigation into the attack as they continue to search for the motive that led the 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks to embark on such a brazen attack before the Secret Service fatally shot him. Our correspondent, Sharon Bryce Peace.
Both men will effectively return to campaigning this week, and I think they will be hugely scrutinised in terms of the language they use. Another point to make here is that the Republican Party is hugely unified behind Donald Trump, more so than ever. And I think
Recapping the top story at 2 o'clock, Correctional Services has confirmed that former VBS Bank CFO Philip Truta has been released on parole. The Full Circle continues. For SAFM News, Kimudupi Mahalemed.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
ndicela umkheni ntombi wentombi yabantu zininzi izinto ndiyaqonda zininzi izinto ndiyavuma zininzi izinto oh ndinike indawo enhlizweni ndinike indawo ndoyidina bamoshile abantu ndiyaqonda badlalile abantu ndiyaqonda ndinike indawo ndoyidina sekuthi xa kuthethwa ngabantu besithi hayi kunzima wena uzuthi hayi ndiyathandwa uzuthi ndithandiwe oh ndinike indawo enhlizweni ndinike indawo ndoyigcina bamoshile abantu ndiyaqonda badlalile abantu ndiyaqonda ndinike indawo ndoyigcina ndinike indawo enhlizweni ndinike indawo ndoyigcina bamoshile abantu ndiyaqonda badlalile abantu ndiyaqonda ndinike indawo ndoyigcina oh
Jazeel Brothers coming through with Ndinigindao. Beautiful song, that one. Beautiful song. That is how we kick off at 2 o'clock. It's 10 past 2 in case you were rushing to your next appointment or you're rushing for your school run. Schools are back in full swing. We're talking changing perceptions around artisan careers now with Sihle Mofokeng, who is a marketing manager, and Lindiwe Sibanda, who is an artisan, an electrical engineer and founder of Lenaneo Electrical. It is World Youth Skills Day today on the 15th of July. And Ellen Gray Makers is aiming to highlight the urgent need to double the number of artisans that South Africa produces. So currently, the country only produces 15,000 artisans annually, and we're falling short of the target of 30,000 artisans that are needed each year to tackle youth unemployment and growing workforce demands. So what do we need in order to bridge that gap? Let me start with you, Sihle Mofokeng. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you, Bridget. Thank you so much for having us.
It's only a pleasure. So if currently we're only producing 15,000 artisans annually and we're falling short of the target, which should be double, 30,000 artisans, what do we need in order to bridge that gap? Maybe let's start there, and then I'll pack it with another question by asking, why are we falling short of attracting people into artisan careers?
Sure, and I think, Bridget, my question will answer both your first and second question. So really, from the research that we've done, we've seen that in order to double the numbers of artisans that we're producing, we need at least 60% of school leavers to consider going to a TVET college to study a trade or doing some form of apprenticeship. But that is a huge target to try and get to the 60%. And really the biggest problem at the moment is that perception. You know, we think about artisans and tradeswomen and men as something that is secondary, or TVET education is something that is secondary. You doing it because you didn't get into university. You know, it's a second option, third, fourth for some people. And you know, the stigma associated to it in our society. So in order to get to these figures, we really need to be doing quite a lot of work in changing the perception. So making people see that going into the trades is actually a viable and lucrative opportunity, and actually even entrepreneurship in these trades is even more of a viable career path.
And what you say, Sihle, about those perceptions, right, around TVET colleges and trade careers, I think this goes back to even when I was in high school, right, about 20 years or so now, when I remember, and I grew up in Durban, and there was, I think it's still there, that TVET college. At the time, they weren't called TVET, well, not a college, but a high school. At the time, I forget what they were called. George Campbell. And I remember people used to sort of, you know, we'd turn our noses up. I'm sure even myself, we'd turn our noses up at scholars who went to George Campbell, because we're like, well, okay, you're not good enough to be at a normal school. Why are you learning to be a mechanic? Or, you know, and that's the kind of perception that is ingrained in us socially. And it's a bad perception.
It really is a bad perception. And you know, we realize as Allen Gray makers, though, that this is not something that we can do alone. You know, so we need other organizations, the government, you know, so that we can tackle this elephant from different angles. But really what we are trying to do now is, you know, tell stories of successful artisanal entrepreneurs so that we can position them as relatable role models. You know, we're going into schools, we're playing these videos. I mean, you will talk to Lindiwe now, who is a successful entrepreneur, trade entrepreneur. So yeah, it's when you tell all of those stories that people really understand that this is a lucrative business and it's a lucrative career path. I mean, I always say to people, you know, we all understand the journey and what it takes to become a qualified doctor and become a qualified TA, but we don't have that same understanding for what it actually takes to be a master plumber, which is 7 years. So you see the amount of time that person needs to invest in their trade, in their skill, in their craft, it's the same amount of time that it's actually taking for somebody to be a specialist doctor or to become a CA. So we need to be putting all of those things front and center and actually educating society on what it takes to get to this point.
Yeah. Lindiwe Sibande, let's jump you in here as an electrical engineer. And we're talking around, you know, these artisanal careers that aren't necessarily held at the same esteem as other careers. Maybe let me get your perspective as to what you think affects the perceptions out there around trades careers.
Thank you for the opportunity. I think that what affects the perspectives out there is when people looking at trades and they feel that there is a certain group that belongs there. Like it looks like it's a male industry. So people feel the barrier. They feel that they cannot cross that bridge because that world out there for trades is for men. And I think it's very wrong.
Absolutely. And what would you think maybe should be the conversation that we are having? I mean, you know, speaking to Sihle and he also touching on the perceptions where people think that it's not good enough or it's secondary. What conversations do you think we should be having as society, and that we should be having with young people, when we're trying to educate them or expose them to these careers? How should we be positioning them so that they see them differently?
I, for one, I think we should start by introducing as little things as tools. Remember, in this industry, we work a lot with tools. So if the young people from as young as primary schools, if they can start to learn more about tools, understand tools, fall in love with tools, and then it's easier for them to develop the love of that career. It's easier for them to develop that love to work with that tool. Because what happens usually is, because even in colleges, as we go on to study like the theoretical part, we really don't get to learn about tools. Then when you get to the industry, it's when you realize that for you to perform any task, the first that you must know is which tools are you taking in your bag to go and perform such tasks. So I believe that if you can have these conversations from a very young stage, introduce tools to these young schools and have such conversation, then I believe we might get somewhere.
Yeah. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on as we have this conversation around the perceptions around artisanal careers. We wanted to know from you, perhaps, if you are in a trade career, maybe you are an electrician, a plumber, in construction, you are a tradesman or a tradeswoman in some sense or another. What influenced you moving in that particular career path and getting into that particular profession? And of course, just wanting to know what the journey has been like for you as well. We have a lot of younger South Africans. In fact, the majority of our listeners falls within the youth category who listen to this particular show, and just trying to convince them to say, maybe think about this as a possible career projection for you, a career path. So we'd love to know from you as you listen to us, if you are in a trades career, if you are an artisan, whatever it is, maybe even some things that we've never heard of. Let us know how you got into it, what influenced you to get into it, and how have you found your journey in it as a career option for you. Has it been something that's been good to you and your family? 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line if you'd like to send through your voice notes. So 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on. Let's take a quick pause and then we'll come back and get back into our conversation.
S3 is bringing you the best in Indian cinema every Sunday at 2 p.m. Laugh, dance, get drawn into the drama, revved up with the action, and maybe, just maybe, shed a little tear. Catch Gagi on the 7th of July, Selfie on the 14th, Prince on the 21st, and Laila Majnu on the 28th. It's Indian cinema like you've never seen it before. Channel your best entertainment with Indian cinema only on S3. Open up.
S3. Yeah, we can do this. It's been a long time coming. This deserves to grow. It's a great business. If they don't like it, someone else will. And fund me so I can expand. Maybe I can offer them shares. I need to retain equity for staff. It's going to be good for recruitment. Yeah.
Possible begins with that one great idea. When Telkom enables entrepreneurs to make their ingenuity a reality, we grow local economies. Telkom. Possible begins here.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga. Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
We'd love to know your story if you happen to be a tradesman, or perhaps, you're an entrepreneur in this space. You own your own small plumbing business or small to medium-sized plumbing business or electrical business, whatever it is, construction business. There's so many trades out there. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line if you can share your journey. 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on. Or you just want to weigh in your opinion as to why perhaps we see this disinterest in trades careers by young people? Why is it that so many young people who are sitting at home, otherwise unemployed, qualified or not qualified, with a degree, diploma in something or another, are not potentially looking at trades careers as viable possibilities, considering the very low barrier to entry when it comes to being a tradesman? You don't need very much. There's a lot of short courses that are offered out there. At one point, we had the Plumbers Association of South Africa talking about how they have all these programs and all this assistance and support that is not utilized by young people who either want to learn the trade or set up their own business, who need to find resources to do all of that. And they were making quite literally a plea on SAFM to say that we need more young people to take up our offer. So what is it about these trades careers that's just not attracting young people, given the wealth of possibility for success that lies ahead? 086 000 2032, 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line. Sihle, let's talk about this PRing element, right? Every industry will talk about you need good PR. You need good PR.
Yes.
And these artisanal jobs and careers, these tradesman jobs and careers, frankly, have very bad PR. And young people get attracted to things that have good PR. So how do we then rebrand what it is to be a tradesman?
Sure. I think how we get to that is all of these different stakeholders working together. Starting from TVET colleges, we need to have proper up-to-date curriculum around the trades. We need to have support from the Department of Higher Education and Training, which they are doing quite a lot to promote the trades as well. We need to have organizations such as Alan Gray Makers who are working with these artisans, the work etiquette, the entrepreneurial side, so that by the time we are putting these artisans into the workforce or out there as entrepreneurs, we are creating this credibility and trust within the trade. I mean, if you are Bridget in Durban and you fall sick, for example, you'll just simply Google doctor near me and go to that person. But within this sector, it's always based on who do I know that needs to recommend, because of all the dodgy work that also happens, and all of those things. So how do we also bring in the industry bodies? You were talking now about IOPSA. How do we bring in, IOPSA looks after the plumbing sector. How do we bring in ECA for the electrical sector, RMI for the automotive sector, and get them there as well so that they can verify, put their stamp of approval behind these people, and make sure that we're getting them as qualified as we possibly can so that we can try. All of these things will help us to try change the perception and actually also contribute towards a positive PR of the sector.
Absolutely. And I keep reiterating, given the low barrier entries to these careers, for so many youth, this is a viable option and one that is within reach. Welding, boiler making, building, carpentry, plumbing, mechanics, all of these trades are things that can be done instead of you sitting at home with your degree and diploma waiting for that fabulous white-collar job.
Absolutely. And I mean, some of these TVET colleges are even working with industry now, so companies where they are based. And they've started these initiatives and they call them centers of specialization. So actually, this is a project that sits within DHET. And these centers of specializations working with industry really just focusing on certain trades in those locations. And this is industry saying this is what we need produced so that we can absorb that talent. So if we are having a TVET college in East London, for example, Mercedes can come on board and say, we need to produce people who will be working in the automotive industry so that we can absorb them afterwards. So really, different TVET colleges, the Departments of Higher Education and Training, doing amazing things to really try and attract young people into the trades. But it's also, Bridget, not only about changing the perception of the students, but also how do we reach the teachers who have a huge influence on which subjects you choose when you get to grade 9, which career you're actually going into. And the parents as well, who would be like, Bridget won't go and do plumbing. What will the next door neighbor say? She must go to a university. So we need to be influencing and changing perceptions at all different levels.
Listen, if I wasn't so old and stuck in my ways, plumbing would be an absolute viable option for me. And I've looked at getting into it from a supplier perspective, because even there's so many ways that you can dice it up and get in and make some serious money. 086 000 2032 and 0614104107 is our WhatsApp line. Lindy, I'm going to come back to you now, but I just want to go to WhatsApp quickly before I even play the voice note. There's a message here that touches on exactly what Sihle just said. The Department of Basic Education may need to repackage the way that they seem to look at matric passes differently, to praise those that also achieve passes to go to TVET colleges as well. And that's from Mune. Let's also play some messages.
Hi, SA listeners. I hope you're okay. You're speaking to Khoto. I'm a tradesman. I'm a diesel mechanic. The person who referred this to me or gave me this path was my brother. I didn't know anything about the trade before, but I think it's a good career path and a good way to learn quicker. And the opportunities are more huge in South Africa currently, because most of the companies are looking for tradesmen. And it's a short career, because you only go for college for a year or less than a year, because they are working in trimesters, N1, N2, N3. In N2, you can be able to apply for an apprenticeship, and then after 3 years, you get qualified, you earn a better salary, and I promise you'll never even gonna look for employment again. Companies will look for you. Thanks. I hope this helps. A lot of youth need this information. Sharp. Ciao.
Hello, Bridget. Thank you for the wonderful show. Okay, my name is Batabile, and I have an agro-processing business. Basically, what it entails, we process agricultural produce, and all of my processes are very much artisanal from cradle to grave. But what I've noted, sadly, is that most of my peers, people in their late 20s to mid-30s, they look down upon anything that has to do with you using or being artisanal. So it's like everyone is chasing for high-profile jobs, or so-called high-profile, the office jobs. Growing up, I used to enjoy making beads, making jewelry using beads. And personally, I just enjoy working with my hands. And I've made a good life of it. It's very, very unfortunate that people are walking away from something that is so enjoyable and so pleasing, so creative. I mean, it's a very nice industry. Artisanship is the best for me.
I can already hear, Uguti Batabile, you are living your best life there. And I love the fact that you shared from a female perspective as well, because the perception is also that, these artisan jobs are the reserve of men because they require muscle and grit and handwork. And who says women can't do any of that? We can definitely put the manicures aside 5 days of the week and get down and dirty with anyone else. 0614104107 is our WhatsApp line. 086 000 2032. Gugule to Durban, I see you. Let's just go to the headline news and then we'll come back.
Thanks, Bridget. Good afternoon. With the news headlines, Mudupi Makhalemele. President Cyril Ramaphosa has lamented the impact of climate change on the country's economy, with shipping being one of the sectors most adversely affected. Newly appointed Police Minister Senzo Mchunu has assured the public that the SAPS will prioritize advanced technology and stations will become well-resourced in an effort to better fight crime in the country. And polls have opened in Rwanda, where citizens are voting in presidential elections. A full news update coming up at 3.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Yes, when Madupi calls me by my full name, it just sounds like when you are fighting with your partner that day, and then they call you by your government name, and they don't call you by that nice little name that you. So Madupi, you threw me off guard there when you said thanks, Bridget. Anyway, let's go to Guguletu in Durban. How are you, Gugu?
Hi, Bridget. I'm good and yourself?
I'm great, thank you. Not the Gugu I was expecting, but go ahead.
Well, certainly not. It's the male Gugu. Anyway, what I'd like to give, or maybe just to tell you how I got into the artisanship. I wanted to do mechanical engineering, and I did not get entry into any university. And then I found out that, there's this career stream that you can go into, which surprisingly enough, I went to a sort of like a half technical high school. And this information, I realized years after that, hey, our teacher was supposed to tell us that there's actually continuance if you are doing this field where you can go to a college, get a trade test, and even get a diploma. But that was never uttered, and it really created certain aspersion for me because of the racial dynamics that there was with regard to the teacher as well. But funny enough, the guys that we were in class with who were of the lighter skin color, they knew all about it, and we found them by pure coincidence in college, in training centers, to say, hey, we never once spoke about this stream, and you are here. How did you know? So, well, anyway, then your guest is saying that there's a need for 30,000 artisans.
Yeah.
Just wish to know, where do they find that from? Because there's a lot of our artisan brothers and sisters that we know that are not employed. They are looking for a job.
Yeah. And the thing is, Gugu, we can debate, and I'm sure Sihle will tell us some of the sources. But we do know that even government has made this call repeatedly to say that we are short of artisans in the country. And I think maybe sometimes when people don't have work, it's also, what is your drive? What is your focus? Do you get up and go? Do you know where to knock? The places you need to call, you know what I mean? So sometimes it's the lack of information of where you need to be knocking and going, but not because the opportunity is not there. Because this is something government keeps harpering year in, year out. We need more artisans. Morimi, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm great. You are in a place called Bochum.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
So, can you please find out how much the minister's PA paid? Because it's like a lot of things was going on. The people that don't know how much the PA of ministers.
What are you referring to?
Ministers PA.
No, sorry. Let's try to stick to the topic, Moreme. There'll be another day to talk about that. And I think my producers patched you in because there was an understanding that we're talking about artisan careers. If you are in some kind of artisanship and you are a tradesman, and you're one of those careers, how did you get into it? How's it working out for you? And of course, just maybe even sharing with us, what do you think the stumble is for South African youth and why they don't seem to be attracted to these artisan careers out there. Lindiwe, let's go back to you. Lindiwe Sibanda, who's also part of this conversation, who is an electrical engineer. And let's go back to you. Let's talk about some of the challenges that maybe you did or did not face in establishing your company.
By the time I established my company, I already had information. I did my research. I'd already worked for years and years as an electrician in different companies. So even the challenges to expect, I already knew them. Some of the challenges I faced was obviously being a female in a male dominant industry. Always when you show up with wearing an overall and carrying a toolbox, people always ask if you are there for the problem that they called for.
Yeah.
You understand? People always feel like, we called for an electrician and they sent a secretary.
Which in its part is a bit insulting, right? Because, I mean, what is it about being an electrician that would exclude a female?
Exactly. But by the time I established my business, I was already exposed to that environment. So those things really didn't affect me much.
Yeah. And tell me this, Lindiwe, as when you were younger, right? But when you were younger and you were an electrician and going out on these house calls, from your perception, what do you think it is that clients perhaps would be doubting your skill or your capability versus that of a gentleman counterpart?
With my experience, I think people would be doubting me being a female, because I am fit enough. Trust me, I can do anything that a man can do. I can pull a cable, I can run it, I can strip a DD board, anything you can think of. Remember, before I had my company, I used to work for a certain company, of which I had a boss whom I was reporting to. So when he gives me a task, you wouldn't care if I'm a woman or a man. And that was fair enough.
Yeah.
You want the task carried out. And that's how it should be.
Absolutely. Yes.
So I think people have that thing in their heads, in their mentality, that you, a woman, they just doubt you. And by the time you finish the task that you are doing, like in the beginning, you feel like maybe intimidated. You feel you are not good enough. But trust me, as time goes on, even when they say to you, you take it as a joke. You all laugh about it, and then you solve the problem quickly. You let them know there is power now.
Yeah, and has that changed over the years? Are you finding that maybe with also your customers getting younger in age, we're seeing so many young professionals out there now independently living their lives? Has that sort of helped to change the perceptions when you walk in now? Are you getting less and less of that shock value of, oh, it's a female?
Yes, honestly speaking, yes. When, let's say, I get into households, I've seen lots of beautiful smiles from ladies when they see that it's a lady showing up. I remember there was this lady, she even called a friend, she did a video call and said, hey, look at my electrician. And the friend responded, oh, is she a she? So I've seen some they are very excited about it. But however, there are those places where you get to, you find out you are the only woman on site. You find out, sometimes remember we're all working at an estate. There is a group of plumbers, there is a group of those that are doing cupboards, and there's obviously me and my team who are there for electricals. So you find out maybe I'm the only lady. But it doesn't bother me anymore. I'm so used to it. It's home. It's my home for me, a home of men. So I'm so used to it by now.
I love it for you. Let's go to WhatsApp and hear what else is on your mind.
Good afternoon, Bridget. I'm a qualified artisan fitter, not fit and tenor, just a fitter. I'm currently enjoying what I'm doing. I'm working in one of the SOEs in the country that produces electricity. To be honest, I'm not regretting at all. I'm really enjoying my trade, and I've completed my N6. I can now be regarded as a technician, and I can even register with ICASA. So I will encourage the youth of nowadays to also pursue their career as artists, and indeed we're in short of artisans in many industries. Thank you, Bridget.
We love to hear all of your reasons for getting into this industry. Sihle, let's talk about the advice that you would give to young people that are considering getting into trades.
Sure. So for me, it really is, and I like to pair it with not just trades and leave it at that, but, trades and entrepreneurship. Because we always say that, your skill can be your business idea. That's the beauty about the trades. You don't need to think about something. So this is a very lucrative, and I've been saying this industry to be going into. There's a huge demand for it. And I mean, as Allen Gray Makers will be having this festival in September, where we'll be focusing just on the green economy and bringing in people to talk to the opportunities that exist for artisans within this green economy, and one of the speakers was talking about the joy that it brings just working with your hands, creating something, fixing things, so I would really encourage young people to consider the trade seriously, and then also just look around you and look for people who have really become successful within this industry, and know that just because you're going into the trades does not mean that you are not smart or that you could not get into university, but that you are really seeing this as a viable career option for yourself, something that will bring you prosperity for yourself and your family, and it's something that you'll actually enjoy doing.
Absolutely. Lindiwe, I'll let you have the final bite. Quick one, just by way of success in this industry, what advice would you give to a young female or even a young male getting into the world of an artisan career? How do they make a success out of it?
Just to add on what Sihle said, because he said it so well, like I always say, my skill, my business, I really don't have to go around and look for lots of things. I have it all within my hands. I have it all within my skill. Even you just mentioned, Kori, you did not get a chance to go to university and what. With my trade skill as an artisan, I actually hire university graduates from the best universities ever. They actually work for me. I'm currently busy with a solar project for PSA, and I've hired 2 engineers to help me with some designs and stuff like that. So even with your skill from the college, you can still hire someone from university.
Absolutely.
So if we can, in different ways, with a skill, you don't need to wait for someone to hire you. You always have something to do. I made so much money during COVID.
We'll leave it there for this afternoon. Lindiwe Sibanda, thank you so much for the time. And Lindiwe is an electrical engineer and founder of Linaneo Electrical, and Sihlo Mofokeng, who's a marketing manager, of course, championing there that perhaps skills-based careers would be a way to go. It's approaching 2:45. Ashraf is standing by to let us know what's coming up today on the National Pulse.
Nick is hiding a dark secret. For 20 years, everything has been going according to plan. Until now. He has the perfect wife, Maya, a smart, ambitious defense lawyer who is on the verge of becoming the first black director of public prosecutions. Amidst the biggest case of her career and having her life under intense scrutiny, Maya learns of Nick's dark secret and how she was one of Nick's targets 20 years ago. The veil of secrecy will fall. Nothing stays hidden forever. Betrayal, secrets, suspense. Oh, the drama. This is Undercover, Mondays to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on S3. Channel your best drama with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
S3. The European outfit want to interrogate African resilience, but Tanzanian champions are highly spirited to rise. German Bundesliga club FC Augsburg battles it out with Yanga SC from Tanzania. This is the Mpumalanga Premiers International Cup 2024. Do not miss out on the mouth-watering clash between FC Augsburg and Young Africans on Saturday, 20 July at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on TTT Channel 4, SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Tickets are available at CompuTicket. Proudly brought to you by the TS Galaxy Foundation and SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM, leading the conversation.
Alrighty, we're going to quickly hear from Ashraf what's coming up today on the National Pulse. How are you doing?
I'm very good indeed. I'm trying to work out what's coming up. There's just so many things happening. But of course, we can't ignore Donald Trump, can we?
What's he been up to?
Well,
I've been ignoring him.
Well, clearly some shooters are not ignoring him. I mean, they're trying to...
Really?
Well, you clearly have been out of sync for the weekend. There was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump.
Oh, really?
No, you're either joking or you don't know.
I really unplugged.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, there was, and I said attempt, so you got the answer to that one. We'll talk about that as we absolutely should. There's been a conversation we're going to have around home affairs. There's been a move from some of them to suggest that nurses must be set aside in terms of the conversation around NHI. So we'll talk about that issue, which I think is very interesting, right? Around the medical issue, rather, I should say that much. What else have we got? Here's an interesting thought. We'll pick up on the issue of climate change because it's a big issue, as you know, and sometimes underestimated. And our experiences in Cape Town suggest that you better take that seriously. And then Rainwater, on the one hand, have suggested that they've ended their maintenance issues in Joburg, but others have received notice to say it's going to continue for another 10 days at least. So,
wow. All right, listen.
These are the days of our lives.
As he shows his age. Yeah. I'm just grateful all of that missed me. But honestly, I was unplugged from the news this weekend, so I'm unaware as to what happened. Right? Looking forward to hearing what's coming up and all those conversations. I'd also love to know, I don't know if you've had this conversation or not, but around Joe Biden's fitness to run for office, because there are calls for him to just gracefully step aside. I know, but
now they say this assassination attempt has handed the election to Donald Trump. Work that out. Listen to the show after 3. You'll get it all.
I'll listen out. That is Ashraf coming through 3 until 6 on the National Pulse. It's very interesting what's happening in the U.S. right now. I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of people are in consensus that, do we need another Trump run as president, considering everything that happened during that first run? But then also just the questioning of Joe Biden's right now, his sort of mental state, considering his age is in his 80s, early 80s. And a lot of people saying, and everything that's been happening every time he's in front of a camera on a podium over the last couple of weeks, and people are saying perhaps he's not fit to run for office, including people within his own party, the Democrats, saying perhaps he needs to just gracefully step aside and let someone else run. It would be interesting to know who would be the contender if he had to step aside. Who would be the person that would rise up to fill that role for the Democrats? Because there's also not been any kind of overt Kamala Harris push. So I don't necessarily think they're trying to push for Kamala Harris. But I don't know. We'll see what happens there. We are about to wrap up the show in our final moments. Perhaps we go to a WhatsApp and recap on some of your shares and conversations around the careers you chose in the world of artisan, whatever you may be, a mechanic, a plumber, a carpenter or in carpentry. But okay, our guest is ready. I was waiting for them to let me know if our guest is ready. So we'll hold off on that and then take Dr. Jenny Wright. How are you doing, Dr. Jenny?
I'm doing very well, thanks. And yourself, Bridget?
I'm fantastic. All right, let's hold off on all the artisan careers for now, and let's focus on pre and primary school curriculums and how to know if your child is ready to start primary school. Yeah, how does one know? Let's start there.
Well, I think readiness is equated to fitness, really. Is my child fit enough to start school, Bridget? So physically, can my child sit still, and can my child sit up straight? And those things seem so small, but they're actually huge in a child's life because, as you know, children are constantly in motion. It's not easy for them to be still, and they are still developing their relationship with gravity, I guess, and developing their core strength and just control of their bodies in space. So that's an indicator that a child is ready for school.
Yeah.
Secondly, can my child listen? Cognitively, can my child follow instructions? Can they follow a sequence of instructions? Can they follow a story?
Yeah.
Are they, yeah, so listening is a very big indicator. And then thirdly, can they hold a pencil? You know, that would be their fine motor skills.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yes, but we also talk emotionally and socially. Are they fit for school?
Yeah.
Can they do that? You know, their confidence. Do they have a sense of I can do it and agency? And are they willing to learn? And can they self-regulate? Of course, they're still little and still learning, but those are all indicators of school readiness.
I mean, you know, I always put as a disclaimer when we have conversations around children, because at this present moment as we talk, I am not a mom or a parent as yet, but I would figure then obviously the things you talk about, because when you started with physical, you know, are they able to just sit still and sit upright and sit correct? I would figure that these talk to the important milestones that parents then should be looking out for when we start thinking about starting grade 1. And coupled to that is that then I would deduce that not everybody can start grade 1 at the same age if you are not ticking off some of these developmental milestones.
Okay, so that's an interesting question, because the thing is, when children start grade 1, they don't magically, it's not a magical thing that they suddenly can do these things. It's actually just, if you think about it, at the beginning of grade 1, they are still grade R's. And some of them will be more developed than others. So it's not a thing that your child can't sit still and straight yet, so they can't go to grade 1 yet. It just means that they are not there yet. They are still on the road. And teachers and schools make allowances for children to develop at their own rate. In fact, I'd say it's quite dangerous to make a checklist of these are the things you need for school readiness, because children are all growing at their own pace. And for some of them, they take a little bit longer because they're all individuals.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that makes perfect sense to me. Then how do preschools then ensure the state of readiness? So when are there supports and resources in school to then, if you are starting school and you are able and capable to start school, to make sure that you then develop at and I'm going to use the word rate, even though it's probably not the right word, at the rate that is required for you to match your grade mates, so that you can keep progressing alongside your peers?
Yeah, I think that, the best practice at preschool is all about creating multisensory experiences for children to learn, because they learn concretely. And most importantly, they play, because play is learning. And so a preschool should set up plenty of multisensory experiences for children to play. Because when they play, they problem solve and they communicate. They learn resilience. They learn to play with each other, so they learn to collaborate. And they learn to organize themselves and their games.
Yeah.
In fact, play is, I wish they could play for longer, but they should be playing, they should definitely be playing in grade R.
Yeah.
So the teacher sets up multi-sensory experiences, and then she says, so whatever the topic is, and then she says, how do we play this? So they might be playing number, but they'll be doing different activities playing with numbers, with the concept of number. So I think it's more important really to make sure that preschools are using best practice rather than trying to measure when children are ready. Because if preschools are setting up best practice and children are learning to play with plenty of opportunity for physical development, physical gross motor play, lots of physical games and activities, plenty of exposure to numbers and words, then those children are going to be set up to be ready in their own time.
Yeah. And obviously when we talk, grade R and grade 0, we're talking little ones. But then when we start talking about the readiness for primary school, is that then a different conversation? When we start talking about you now getting ready for big school?
Well, grade R is now the first year of primary school, but you don't read and write in grade R yet. You are still getting ready to do those things.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the experiences you've had and all the play and all the multi-sensory experiences you've had at preschool and at grade R enable you to read and write in grade 1.
Mm-hmm.
That, it looks like you wouldn't think that learning how to play physically and like a hopscotch game or something has got anything to do with learning to read, but it's got everything to do with learning to read, because the brain, your physical coordination and your ability to manage your body obviously has a connection to your ability to learn to read.
Let me ask you this, Dr. Jenny. Does this also speak to not skipping, as you talk about and all the conversations we've had about the importance of play in cognitive development, right? And directed play. I start thinking about just sort of development milestones in little ones, like as young as toddlers, before they even get to a kindergarten, and how some of these stages are important. And I remember a doctor saying it's very important for your child to crawl. As much as you celebrate the fact that your baby went from baby to walking, the importance of that crawling stage it plays a huge function in the development of the brain and the coordination of a body. So even if you mimic it for them to force them to do it, it must be done.
Absolutely. Those milestones all have a purpose, and skipping a milestone like that is not a good thing for brain development. So I think sometimes parents want their children, they want to accelerate their development, but it must happen naturally. Because if children don't crawl and then they don't learn to cross the midline, and then there is definitely a problem then when it comes to learning to read and learn, and other cognitive milestones. So it's very important that they learn that they actually do the milestones. And the same applies to trying to push your child into reading and writing before they are actually ready developmentally, because some people want to send their kids to school to grade 1 before their right age, when they are still they haven't got that fitness yet. It's not established.
All right. We live to learn every day. Dr. Jenny Wright, we appreciate the time. And of course, Dr. Wright is the pre and primary school curriculum head at Curo Holdings, and hope you got some information as you prepare your little ones to start school next year. That is us, and that is how we close off the show this afternoon. Ashraf is standing by with his team to take you through the rest of today between 3 and 6. I'm going to say goodbye here and wish you well, and say to you, hopefully, inshallah, God willing, we get to do it again tomorrow, and we'll sneak in one voice note that will take us back to our old conversation.
The world's best cooking show is coming to S3. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumaphi, and no matter your favorite dish. See if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Starts Saturday 13 July at 7:30 p.m. on S3 Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
The top stories at 3 o'clock. Ramaphosa laments on the impact of climate change and Mkhunu promises better resourced police stations. A very good afternoon. President Cyril Ramaphosa has lamented the impact of climate change on the country's economy, with shipping being one of the sectors most adversely affected. This after winter storms along the country's west and east coasts disrupted shipping operations to such an extent that the Transport Authority Transnet ordered the temporary suspension of the movement of ships. Ramaphosa was speaking at the Climate Resilience Symposium in Pretoria.